Hello everyone, welcome to Tamali's classes. Today I'll be talking about enzymes. So have you ever wondered that when we keep our food in the refrigerator, then how can we preserve it? Why doesn't the food become spoiled? So today we'll talk about that at the end of the class. So wait till the end. And so let's start. So enzymes is basically a part of biomolecules chapter. Okay. And so today is the first part of enzymes. So first of all, we talk about what are enzymes. So see, enzymes are basically they are proteins. Okay, they are proteins, and since we know that proteins are comprised of amino acids, so enzymes are also comprised of amino acids. So when amino acids are linked together, it may be one or more polypeptide chain, then they form proteins, and these proteins are also a form of they may also be enzymes. Okay, that means you can say enzymes are a form of proteins. Okay, now who discovered enzymes? Enzymes were discovered by Buchner in 1897. Okay, and because of which he also was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1903. And this term enzyme was coined by Kuhne, okay, W. Kuhne in the year 1878. Fine. Now, enzymes are also called as biocatalysts since they are uh, catalyzing a biological reaction. So they are also known as biocatalyst. Okay, so what do they basically do? They help um in the reaction process. Okay, they will help in reaction process. They will help the reaction to go on. Okay, so how? So is specifically what do they do? We know that in a reaction, a substrate changes into a product. Okay, so what will this enzyme do? It will initiate the process. It will help the substrate to change into a product. Okay, now what will happen? It will provide a surface to the substrate. The substrate will go and bind to the enzyme, and then the enzyme will help in the initiating, or it will help in the processing of the reaction. Fine. So basically, not basically, generally, enzymes name they are named after the substrate. Okay, generally it happens. Okay, so they are known to increase the rate of a reaction, and also when during a chemical reaction, the enzymes they never change. Okay, the enzymes they remain same, the form remains same. Fine. Now we talk about the general properties of enzyme. So as I've told you, the enzymes they initiate a reaction. They will accelerate the rate of a biochemical reaction. It can be in either direction, either forward reaction or reverse reaction. Okay. Now these enzymes their activity will depend upon the acidity of the medium. Now, suppose that means it is pH specific. Okay, like for pepsin, the pH is 2. For trypsin, the pH is 8.5. So, this enzyme they are pH specific. Also, this enzyme, when we talk about the structure of enzymes, I'll show you in a diagram. Okay, you can see out here in the first out diagram, you can see here that the first one you can see it's enzyme. Okay, I'll just show you with my structure. See, this is the enzyme out here. So every enzyme they contains an active site. Okay, this is an active site. They contain an active where the substrate will go and bind to it. Okay, so enzymes they contain an active site when the substrate will go and bind to it, and after binding, it will lead to the formation of enzyme substrate complex, and then the reaction proceeds to the formation of the product. Okay, so and also enzymes they are unstable compounds if and they are mostly soluble in water, dilute glycerol, NaCl, and dilute alcohol, and they act actively at optimum temperature. So if the temperature is too high or too low, then enzymes activity also changes depending on that. But if the temperature is optimum, then the enzymes are very active at optimum temperature. Okay, now this all enzymes are protein in nature, but remember all proteins may not be enzymes, but all enzymes are protein in nature. So we'll talk about the activation energy also. So enzymes basically what they do, they lower the activation energy of the substance. Fine. Now let's talk about the chemical nature of enzymes. So as I've told you that enzymes they remain unchanged in a reaction. Also remember that in a very small quantity enzymes are active. Okay. So there's a term known as turnover number. So turnover number is basically the number of substrate molecules that are converted by one molecule of enzyme per second. Okay, when its active site is saturated with substrate, that means when an enzyme is working, okay, so when in one molecule of enzyme per second, how many it helps, how many number of substrate molecule it helps to convert into product, that is the turnover number. So basically the number ranges from 0.5 to 6 lakh. Okay, remember this number. Also, enzymes are sensitive to heat and temperature. That's why it's thermolabile. Also, enzymes are hydrophilic in nature. They are basically when they are in a hydrosol state, they are sorry, when they are in a free state, they're hydrosol in nature. Okay, so as I've told you already, when it's at a very low temperature, enzymes are inactive, but they are active at an optimum temperature. So when the temperature increases, then enzyme activity will also increase to a certain level. After a certain level, what happens? Enzyme activity will decrease. So at higher temperature, if the temperature is too high, as I've told right now, only I've told you, if the temperature is too high, then the enzyme gets degraded or denatured. Okay, but if the enzyme is too low, not enzyme, sorry, the temperature is too low, then enzyme is not able to catalyze the reaction. Therefore, the optimum temperature is required. So, what is the optimum temperature of enzyme? Most enzyme, its pH is 7. Okay, remember that. Now, what are the active sites? I've already said that active sites are those sites in an enzyme into which the substrate goes and bind to the enzyme. That means substrate will bind here and then the chemical reaction will take place. So basically there are two components again of active site out here. One is the catalytic site where the actual reaction will take place, and there is also the binding site. Okay, this binding site is a specific area on a cellular structure, okay, where the chemical interaction with the active substance will take place. What is the function of catalytic site? The function of catalytic site is to lower the activation energy, which will help the reaction to be catalyzed. And the function of the binding site is to bind and orient the substrate. Okay. Now, what are the types of enzymes? So first we talk about the allosteric enzymes. See, allosteric site is another site other than the active site. Okay, it is also present in the enzyme. So what will happen in allosteric enzymes are those enzymes which have an allosteric site. Okay, so basically there are modulators. Modulators means it can be effectors or it can be inhibitors. Okay, so modulators may be in effectors or inhibitors. So when these effectors, when they bind as activators, or they can be binding as inhibitors also. So when they bind to the site other than the active site, then this leads to either the reaction can be it can be inhibited or it can be activated. Okay, so this is happening only in case of allosteric enzymes. So what happens when these substrate when this substrate or you can say when the inhibitor or activator binds to this allosteric site, they will regulate the enzyme activity. Why? Because in an enzyme, other than the active site, when something else is binding to the allosteric site, then it will lead to the conformation change of the enzyme. That means, suppose, uh, what happened? There's an enzyme, there's an active site. Okay, okay. Look at the diagram out here. I'll show you by the diagram. Okay, it's very interesting. See here. This is the active site out here. So basically substrate will bind here only. And there's another site known as the allosteric site, or you can say regulatory site. So here either an effector will bind or an inhibitor will bind. Okay. So what will happen when an inhibitor is binding out here? It will change the conformation or shape of the enzyme. What will happen? That time it will not let the substrate to come and bind, because as the shape is changing, so the basic the basic the place where the substrate is supposed to bind, it cannot bind because the shape has changed. So it has led to inhibition. But when it's activation, what happens? It will change the site, the shape of the site, but it will not affect the binding of substrate. It will lead to the activation. Okay. So those are allosteric enzymes which contains an allosteric site. Okay, which help in regulating the enzyme activity by changing the shape of the enzyme. Those are allosteric enzymes. Okay. Now, moving on to isoenzyme and alloenzyme. So, what are isoenzymes and alloenzymes? See, out here, I've not given you some examples and all. I've not given you. So, ATP is one type of enzyme. ATP, what it does, it will help in the allosteric inhibition. Okay. So there are many examples. I will talk to you about it in my another class. Okay, just know the basics right now. So next come to the isoenzymes and alloenzymes. What are the isoenzymes? So isoenzymes are basically multiple forms of same enzyme. Okay, you can see this diagram again out here. You can see diagram out here. So these are the isozymes. The B, C, and D are isozymes, and A is the allozymes. Okay, in allozyme you can see of the same gene. See, Same gene, there are different forms. So this is the allozymes. And out here, gene B, gene C, gene D, they're having B, C, and D. Okay. So multiple form of the same enzyme. Fine. You can see out here allozymes. Allozymes are basically same enzyme but different variations. See the variations out here. So there are different variations of the same enzyme. Those are the allozymes. Okay. And it is produced by the same gene. Remember that. But isozymes, what are isozymes? They are the variations of the same enzyme but from different genes. So one there's an enzyme, there are different genes, and from different genes there are different variations. Okay. But here one enzyme, one gene, same gene, and there are different variations. This is the allozyme, this is the isozyme. So multiple forms of same enzyme that will catalyze the same reaction. Okay. So this is the allozyme out here. Now, what are the different forms that can be differentiated due to physical properties? So different forms, these different forms, they are differentiated by some physical properties like number one, electrophoretic mobility, property of absorption, how they react to an antibody, their kinetic properties, amino acid sequence and composition. These are different in these different isozymes. Okay. Also the tissue localization, in which tissue they are localized, and will also decide what type of enzyme it is. Okay, what type of isozyme or what type of form it is. Understood? So R.L. Hunter and Clement Market in 1957, they gave this isozymes and allozymes. Remember this. Okay, remember this one. Hunter and Market, they gave this isozymes and allozymes in 1957. Moving on, what are proenzymes? Proenzymes are zymogens. That means you can say they're also the precursor of enzyme. That means before the enzyme is formed, before the enzyme is active, the inactive part of the enzyme precursor is known as the proenzyme. They're also known as zymogens. Okay, so they are synthesized in the form of in a cell in the form of inactive, and they're also known as proenzymes. And when activators are present, then they get activated and they start metabolizing into enzyme. Okay, so example out here is when pepsinogen is converted to pepsin by HCl. That is an example of proenzymes. Okay, moving on, other types of enzymes. Now, based on the presence or absence of non-protein groups, we know that basically proteins are always enzymes are always proteins, right? So now, based on difference, presence or absence of some non-protein groups, enzymes can be of more types. Okay, now number one is simple. When enzymes are made up of protein, then they are simple enzymes. Okay, that means you can say trypsin, pepsin, they're all simple enzymes. Another group is conjugate enzymes. Okay, so they are of two types. One is the apoenzyme and one is the cofactor. So apoenzymes are the protein part of the enzyme, and if it's a non-protein part, it's called cofactor. Remember this: protein part is the apoenzyme and non-protein part is the cofactor. Fine. Now, apoenzymes are large and they are enzyme specific, but cofactors, they are small in shape and they're again divided into two types. They might be organic or they might be inorganic. Remember this. Cofactors may be inorganic, non-protein, or they might be organic, non-protein. Also, this to both apoenzyme and cofactor, they form the holoenzyme. The complete enzyme is known as the holoenzyme. So this apoenzyme and cofactor, they are known as the holoenzyme, which forms the active site of an enzyme. Remember this. Now, coming to the type of cofactor. Type of cofactor is non-protein inorganic and non-protein organic. If we talk about non-protein inorganic, then they are basically ions of minerals like calcium, iron, copper, all the minerals. Okay, so they act as activators. Fine. Now, if we talk about the organic form of non-protein enzyme, or you can say organic form of cofactor, then they may be again of two types. One is coenzyme, one is prosthetic groups. What are the coenzymes? They are the transient carriers of specific functional groups. That means they carry functional groups and they require two apoenzymes. Remember this, they're organic, non-protein, but still they require two apoenzymes. One is the picking group and one is the other for your, like example, NAD, NADPS, all these things. Okay. Now, what are the prosthetic groups? Prosthetic groups, they help in the transfer reactions. Example, heme, hemoglobin, heme in hemoglobin, and you have biotin. They are the prosthetic groups, that they are the one type of organic groups only, but they're known as prosthetic groups. Okay. Moving on to cofactors, we know that cofactors are non-protein conjugate enzymes. So they are again, see out here, you can see they are non-protein molecules which act as catalyzed because they help in the reaction. Cofactors are also called as helper molecules because they help in the biochemical transformations. So metal ions such as Cu, copper or magnesium, organic molecules such as heme, sugar proteins, inorganic molecules like the ions, they all coming under the cofactors. Okay, so they will either they will facilitate the activity, or you can say they will facilitate the regulation of an enzyme. Okay, they can also carry chemical groups between enzymes. I've already talked to you about this cofactor types out here. See, we talked about this coenzyme and this prosthetic, right? And basically this is only written out here about the coenzyme, about haloenzyme, about apoenzyme. Remember that. Okay, and even in below you can see out the examples of cofactors. These are all the examples. Okay, you can remember these enzymes. Okay, now moving on to classes of enzymes. So they are basically six classes. Okay, they're basically six on the see, this was given by International Union of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, IUBMB, in 1961. They classified enzymes into six types. Okay, oxidoreductases, transferases, hydroplanes, lyases, isomerases, and ligases. These are the six forms of, or six types of, or you can say six classes of enzymes. Fine. So they names the oxidoreductases. So they will catalyze oxidation and reduction reaction. Okay. So basically this happens, you have seen the oxidation of pyruvate to acetyl CoA in Krebs cycle. Okay. So out here this is there. Okay. Now coming to the transferases out here. Transferases helps in the transfer of the chemical groups. Hydroplanes, they are the hydrolysis of a bond. Okay. The examples I've given out here. Go through the examples. Lyases, what will they do? They are the, you can say example by example, aldolysis out here. Aldolysis will help in the breaking of an enzyme. Okay, this is basically happening in your glycolysis process, lysis class. Okay, then we have isomerases. So isomerases, they create an enzyme isomer of a molecule. This happens in glycogenolysis process. Then we have ligases. Ligases means they will help in the joining of two molecules. So ligases are helping DNA replication and all is there. Okay, DNA ligase is a protein out here. They will help in DNA replication and process. These are all type of the enzymes. Remember the functions. Remember the examples. Okay. Coming to the action of enzymes. So what are the action of enzymes? I've already told you, when they will help in the catalyzing the formation of product from the substrate molecules. Okay, by helping in the joining of substrate into the active side of their structure. Okay, so also we've spoken about the turnover number. Then what happens? Okay, now see here, when enzymes, okay, when they will, when substrate will come and bind to the active site of enzyme, they will form the enzyme substrate complex. So action means out here they will form the enzyme substrate complex. This is also known as the transition state. This is temporary. Okay, transition state. This will lead to the formation of the product. Now, so I hope you understood this one. So they might lead to the exothermic reaction, or they might lead to the endothermic reaction. What will happen? There's a graph out here. Okay, so substrate, when the substrate is being used, okay, so it has to go to a very higher energy, because it's a transition state. Okay, and then it will go down to the, or you can say formation of products, or you can say it will lead to transformation of substrate to products. So these enzymes, they will help in the passing of substrate to the product. That means it will help in the passing the substrate from the high energy to the lower energy. Remember this. Okay, so what will be basically what happens with substrate? It is, see, this is the substrate part. Okay, concentration part. So as concentration is increasing, when concentration is increasing, substrate concentration, the rate of reaction is also increasing. At one point of time, the substrate will be at a very higher energy state. So after that, what will happen? This enzyme will help in the transition of this active state, or you can say high energy state, to the low energy state. It will help to bring down the energy barrier. Okay. Thus, when this happens, only then substrate leads to formation of the product. This transformation becomes easy. This transition from substrate to products becomes easy. Understood? Now, catalysis and activation energy. I've already told you right now only what is happening in the graph. So again, out here, see out here what is happening. You can see these are reactants. Okay, they're going up and up and up. See, this is a transition state when they reach the highest state. This is the uncatalyzed reaction where no enzymes are taking part. But this is the catalyzed reaction where enzymes are taking part. So you can see out here the activation energy out here. In the presence of catalyst, what's happening? It is reducing. Okay, this is reducing. From here, it is forming. This is the form of activation energy when catalyst is not there. But this is the form when catalyst is there. So you can see activation energy is reduced out here. Okay. So in presence of catalyst, activation energy is reduced and it leads to formation of products from the reactants. Okay. Now what is activation energy? So this is the minimum amount of energy that is required to activate the atoms or molecules to a certain condition in which they can lead to formation of products. So this is the minimum amount of energy. It will lead to the transition from your substrate to the product formation. See out here. This is the activation energy, this part. Okay. This is linked to the formation of the reactant to product. So this is the minimum amount of energy. Okay. So the higher the activation energy, the slower the reaction will be there. And the higher the chemical reaction, you can say lower the activation energy. That means the chemical reaction is faster. Okay. So chemical reaction is faster. It will lead to lowering of activation energy. And if the activation energy is higher, then it will lead to the that means the reaction is very very slow. Okay. So there's another term known as catalysis. So catalysis means the speeding up of a reaction. When a reaction is speeding up, okay, with the help of catalyst by reducing the activation energy, it's called as catalysis. As I've already told you that if your activation energy is higher, then the reaction will be very very slow. Why? Because there is no enzymes. It is not catalyzed by any enzymes. But if the activation energy is less, that means the chemical reaction is fast. Why? Because it is catalyzed by an enzyme. The reaction is catalyzed by an enzyme. Therefore, when there is a speeding up of chemical reaction by reduction of activation energy, it is known as catalysis. Okay. So and why is this? Because there's an addition of a catalyst. Okay. That means when the catalyst is added, this is happening. Therefore, in a reaction, in a biochemical reaction or in a biological reaction, these catalysts are also known as enzymes, or you can say biocatalyst, and they're also known as enzymes. Remember this. Okay. Very very important. Now, what is the working model of enzymes? So working model of enzymes is there are two models. One is the lock and key model and one is the induced fit model. So these are two models of enzymes, how enzymes they work. Okay. So first is lock and key model. In this model, this was given by Emil Fischer in 1899. What happens out here? You can see the diagram. See here, the enzyme is there. This is the active site. Okay. This is the active site out here. The substrate is binding here. Okay. In the active site, it's leading to formation of ES, or you can say enzyme substrate complex. And again, what is happening? After this complex, this is moving on and the product is being produced. The products, see, in this part, they tightly bind to each other. But when this is proceeding, when the product is already formed, okay, out here, this is the complex formed. But here, when the product is formed, the product is released out and the enzymes again it releases the product. Okay, it is free now. It will again go on to bind another substrate. Okay, and the product is now free. It is produced. Okay, the product is produced and the enzyme becomes free for another chemical reaction. This was given by Emil Fischer. Now, second is induced fit model. In this model, what's happening? So the name itself says induced fit. So the substrate is made to fit in the model. What is happening out here? See, this is the model. Okay, the enzyme is out here present. When the substrate it binds to the active site, it leads to the adjusting of the shape of the enzyme where the substrate is binding. So this adjusting means it leads to the fitting properly of the substrate in the enzyme. Okay, and then when the enzyme this proceeding, it leads to formation of products. The products are released outside, and again the active site becomes free. The enzyme is again ready for another reaction. So remember this out here. This one out here. This is fixed. Okay, this is, remember, substrate specific. It is specific for substrates out here. But here in induced fit model, the substrate is made to fit in the enzyme. So which is the best one out here? Obviously indiscrete model, because out here it is available, it is made available for all type of substrate. It is available for making all type of substrate to fit into the enzyme and uh, catalyzing or initiating the reaction. Okay, this was given by Daniel Koshland in 1958. Remember this model was proposed by Daniel Koshland. Okay. Now, what are the factors that affects the enzyme activity? So there are, number one is optimum temperature. I already told you. So for animals, this optimum temperature is 30 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius. For plants, it is 20 degrees Celsius to 30 degrees Celsius. Okay. So say this graph out here, this has not come properly. Okay. So this graph is actually like this. This, this is actually like this. Okay. So pH or temperature, and this is the enzyme activity. Okay, so as and as the pH or temperature increases, the enzyme activity will also increase to a certain point of time. After that, what has happened, when the temperature is too high or pH is too high, then the enzyme activity will also decrease because it will get denatured, okay, in high temperature. Understood? So this is happening. So low temperature will preserve the enzyme, but it will keep the enzyme in an inactive state. Okay, but high temperature will destroy the enzyme activity. It will denature the enzyme because of too much heat. Okay. Now remember this point that I said you, okay? We'll talk about it at the end of the slide. Now moving on to enzyme kinetics. So this is a very important reaction known as Michaelis-Menten equation. What is happening out here? When the reaction is starting, okay, when substrates substrate is present out here, okay, the initial velocity, that means V0. When the initial velocity, that means velocity is 0. So it's V0, okay? But when the velocity is maximum, it forms this. This is the velocity out here. This is substrate concentration. Okay. So at one point of time, what happens? At one point of time, the V0 becomes V max, that is maximum velocity. And at one point of time, this V max is half. That means you can see out this one, you can see out here. See here out here what's happening? Here the V is 0 because it's initial velocity. But here this is V max, the velocity is maximum. But here this is the velocity maximum is half. So this half velocity maximum, where the substrate concentration is half velocity, half of the maximum velocity, then this is known as Michaelis constant, okay? Also represented by Km. Fine. And S is out here substrate concentration. So this is the equation. V naught is equal to V max, or you can say maximum velocity into substrate divided by Michaelis constant plus substrate. Okay. So out of the Km value, it represents the enzyme's affinity to the substrate. So smaller the Km, more the enzyme affinity. That means more the enzyme is attracted towards the substrate. And higher the Km, means Michaelis constant, if it's higher, then it's vice versa. Okay. Small Km, more enzyme affinity. High Km, lesser enzyme affinity. Okay. And this is not applicable for allosteric enzymes. Remember this. Now, moving on to enzyme inhibition. Out here, I've given you three types of enzyme inhibition. One is the competitive inhibition, one is the non-competitive inhibition, one is the allosteric. Allosteric, I've already told you in my previous slide. So competitive inhibition means out of what is happening out here. So there's an inhibitor, it will come and bind in the place of the substrate. Okay, the active C out here. See the below picture. This is the inhibitor. See, the inhibitor has already bounded. It's already binded to the enzyme's active site. Thus, it will not let the substrate to come and bind to it. Thus, this is known as competitive inhibition. Okay, the substrate cannot bind to the enzyme. Number two is type of allosteric inhibition. Only there are two types. One is the non-competitive, one is the uncompetitive. Okay, so in what is happening in non-competitive, I told you there's an other site other than active site known as the allosteric site. So when inhibitor is binding to the another site other than active site, okay, see out here, this is the site where substrate is supposed to bind, active site. This is the site where the inhibitor is binding. So when inhibitor goes and bind to another site other than the active site, whether the substrate is present or not, okay, remember this, the substrate might be present or not present. Whether the substrate is present or not, if the inhibitor is binding to the enzyme, it will lead to the changing of the conformation of the enzyme. Thus, it will not let the formation of ES complex, or you can say enzyme substrate complex. It will not let the substrate to come and enter and bind to the enzyme. Thus, it will lead to inhibition. Okay, there's another one known as uncompetitive inhibition. In uncompetitive inhibition, it will happen in presence of an substrate. When substrate is present, then it will lead to inhibition, and thus the ES complex will not be formed. That's called that is called uncompetitive. This is called non-competitive. In non-competitive, it doesn't matter whether the substrate is present or not. Okay, it is whether substrate is bound to the enzyme or not, but it will lead to the inhibition, or it will lead to the not entering of the substrate. It will not lead to the formation of ES complex. Okay. Now the third part is the allosteric inhibition. So in allosteric inhibition, what's happening out here? See here what's happening. The inhibitors are binding to the allosteric sites. Okay. The inhibitor is binding out here to the other side other than the active site, and thus leading to the conformation change. So when the conformation is changing, then what's happening? The substrate can't bind out here, and therefore it is leading to the allosteric inhibition. Okay. So now, what is the importance of enzymes? See, enzymes are very, very important, as we know that enzymes can lead to formation of fermented food and beverages. Also, enzymes help in the signal transmission in our human body, which is very, very important. So, enzymes also lead to the production of energy, and they are also involved in various biochemical activities. I've already told you during my slide when I was talking to you about the classes of enzymes, that in different process like your glycolysis process, in glycogenolysis process, in your Krebs cycle, so in various biochemical activities, these enzymes are taking part. Okay, it may be in oxidation process, it may be in reduction, it may be in hydrolysis process, it may be in ligation process, it may be in lysis process. Okay, so this is the importance of enzymes. Now coming to the interesting facts about enzymes. What are the interesting facts? First of all, enzymes are active at high temperature. We know that. So there's a particular enzyme known as Taq polymerase. So this Taq polymerase, the optimum temperature of this enzyme is 75 to 80 degrees Celsius. We know that normally enzymes they denature at high temperature, but this enzyme is an exception. Okay, this enzyme known as Taq polymerase. This is produced from Thermus aquaticus enzyme. Okay, so from Thermus aquaticus, this enzyme, sorry, from Thermus aquaticus, and Thermus aquaticus is not an enzyme. So from Thermus aquaticus, this Taq polymerase is formed. Okay, that's a bacteria actually. So from Thermus aquaticus bacteria, this Thermus aquaticus polymerase enzyme is formed. Okay, so this Taq polymerase enzyme is very, very active at high temperature. So the optimum temperature for this enzyme is 75 to 80 degrees Celsius. So what does this Taq polymerase do? It helps in the amplification of DNA, or you can say multiplication of DNA. It helps in the polymerase chain reaction, or you can say the multiplication of DNA or forming multiple copies of DNA. This enzyme is helping in that. Okay. Now, next is your digestive enzymes. We know that there are a lot of enzymes in our body which is helping in digestion process. So do you know that they're all functioning at different pH? Example, in the mouth we have a salivary amylase which is helping in the breakdown of food, and also in the digestion of carbohydrates. So digestion of carbohydrates first starts in our buccal cavity, and out there with the help of saliva. In saliva, the salivary amylase is present. So this works at pH 6.8. But in our stomach, pepsin is present, pepsin enzyme. So that is helping in the digestion of proteins, pepsin. So pepsin out here, this pH is 2. Remember that. So different enzymes are functioning at different pH. Okay. Next, very, very interesting is preserving food and vegetables in refrigerator. In my first slide, I told you that, do you know that why do we keep food and vegetables in the refrigerator? Because refrigerator is functioning at a very, very low temperature. And I've already told you in my previous slide that when the temperature is very low, then the enzyme activity also decreases, okay, at low temperature. So what happens when we keep the food or the vegetables in the refrigerator? The enzyme activity decreases. Therefore, the enzyme cannot initiate, or it cannot, catalyze a chemical reaction. It will not lead to the formation of product from substrate. Therefore, there is no spoilage of food, because basically what is spoilage? Spoilage means when there is a chemical reaction taking place, when our food or when our vegetables or any type of eatables, when there's a chemical reaction occurring and they are spoiling, okay, their properties are changing, the chemical properties are changing, then we say that it is spoiled, we cannot consume them anymore. So when we keep this food or this eatables in a low temperature in refrigerator, this activity of converting, or you can say the chemical reaction is not happening, because the enzymes which is helping in the chemical reaction, their activity is getting reduced due to the low temperature, and therefore there is no spoilage of food. Okay, understood? So this is all about your enzymes, and I hope you have liked it. So I will be taking another class of enzymes where I'll be talking about the chemical kinetics, or you can say kinetics of enzyme, where I'll be talking about the different order of reactions, and also I will give some examples of the um, type of inhibitions that is that we have learned in this class. So you can wait for the class. Okay. So thank you so much for attending today's class, and I hope you have a very nice day. And do click on the like icon if you have liked the class. Subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends to subscribe, and also share this class with your friends and motivate me. Thank you so much. Bye bye.